Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
The championship is narrowing up, and Liberante and McLaughlin have been trading wins back and forth. But oddly, they're split by Alexis Demers, who is still seeking his first victory this season. His run of top 5 finishes was finally broken last week at Spa, so will he find himself drifting farther away tonight? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 7 of the PRL GT3 Amateur Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Red Bull Ring has proven popular with both fans and drivers, especially after being purchased by Mateschitz and being reborn. Let's head down to our track guy to see what he's done to the place. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Located near Spielberg, Austria, this track began life in a much more fast and sweeping format. Having gone through multiple different owners, it eventually was snatched up by Red Bull and has its 3 different layouts you see today. While they range roughly between 1 to 2.5 miles in length, the thing they hold in common are fast straights, hard braking zones, and very few corners. In fact, the longest and most common layout, the Grand Prix course, has only 9 of them. Spots like Remus and Gosser are the most popular corners for overtakes, but both involve dramatic elevation changes. Each have their perils. Remus tends to see drivers make contact when the blind cutback often goes wrong, whereas Gosser tempts you into braking far too late, and the downhill nature shoots cars miserably into the gravel. A few swift bends still scatter the track, with turns like Lauda, Rent, or A1 really testing a driver's accuracy at high speeds. However, most of them don't send you off into the grass. Rather, there is a lot of paved runoff. But they often include some nasty curves most cars will want to avoid hitting, as they've been known to damage suspension and undertrays. A variety of types of racing compete here, with everything from lower Formula open-wheelers to motorcycles, touring cars, and all the way up to Formula One holding events regularly. Set among the gorgeously picturesque Alps, and including great racing on a challenging and history-rich circuit, it's easy to see why fans and drivers are both eager every time they come for a race. Well, DJ, F1 cars have really kind of ruled the roost here lately, but what can we expect with GT3 taking place?
Well, Joe, as we saw last night, much like in those open wheelers, the GT3s are gonna be making mega use of the draft around the Red Bull Ring. But it's not easily as straightforward as we've seen in Formula One. Drivers really have to nail the exit out of the Niki Lauda curve in order to get a good pass down into Remus. And just getting down to the inside doesn't mean you're gonna get it. The way that corner changes a little bit, it makes it a little bit interesting, and we can see some fights continuing all the way down the next straightaway and into the infield section. Now, as for that infield section, these GT3s do disturb a decent amount of air, so it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that we'll see some aero wash push some drivers back. Don't know if we're going to see some of the crazy maneuvers that we saw last night with passes being made down into Rauch and through A1 at the end of the circuit. But one thing is for certain, and that is a great race is in store for us here tonight.
I'm looking forward to that race, but before we get there, our broadcast is, of course, sponsored by ASR, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. It's
also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL GT3 AM series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Now, as for the championship, we mentioned the wins have mostly been going to Liberante and McLaughlin, and there's Demers in between the pair of them, about 8 points back from Liberante. Certainly able to be surpassed, depending on how this race goes today, but we could still see Race in the points lead, even if Demers beats him, depending on how it all winds up. Elmanar and Trepanier round out the top five, a bit of a distance back from them. What about the team standings?
Well, Joe, it's just as tight at the top with NTR Motorsports, only 9 points ahead of RF Delta Sport, but from there, it's big gaps with Apex Button Box 64 points off the lead, and SDS Racing Team about 40 points off of Apex in third. Parabola Racing Cobalt putting up a good fight to challenge SDS for fourth, though, so that's a battle we'll have to keep an eye on.
Certainly could see some big swings there. Now, if you watched last night, this is where you could probably switch to your phone and maybe check out your Twitter feed or something. But for those who are new, we have round 7 out of 10 and 8 different vehicles that are able to be chosen from in that GT3 class that the drivers can race here today. It's a 40-minute event and it is open setup, but you will see at least one pit stop for fuel in this race. They also have an incident limit, which will penalize them at 13 with a drive-through, and then a disqualification at 17. And we did see a couple drivers have that drive-through penalty last night, so they do need to be careful. And we're getting the first few able to set a lap time around here as qualifying has just started. And the laps are relatively quick around this place, so they should get a few tries in, but it is only 10 minutes, so they can't really lollygag too long.
No, they certainly can't, Joe, and a good breadth of cars out here as we've been seeing a lot of BMWs and Porsches, a couple of Ferraris, that one McLaren driven by Todd Lewis, it looks like, as we watch these times. Trepignet holding provisional pole right now. Liberante close behind him. I see Charles Sumner popping into P10, but here comes Rodrigo Morales as John Antonino bumps his way up to 4th.
Liberante has been the one dominating the pole position so far. He's got 3, and he's the only person with multiple poles this season. Otherwise, it's been spread amongst other drivers. As Lawson Christie crosses the line, looks like he's not going to be able to set one, unfortunately. We're still waiting about half the field to try and put a time down. This is Quoc Ninh, who is able to go up to 4th with that lap. That's actually a very good position for him. He's actually just ahead of our 2nd place championship rival, Alexis Demers.
Yeah, so Demers is going to want to catch up about 0.6 of a second off right now of his championship contender, Race Liberante. There goes Eric Luke, currently in 3rd, as Trepignet sets an even faster time. Looks like that's a bit of an off track there for Marc-Andre Desjardins. Going to park the car and reset it and get ready to go back out.
Liberante is next up in the 34, trying to take the pole away, but it looks like that lap got deleted for him. Same thing with Baron Glover, but he does at least have one on the board. 2nd lap was quicker for Matt Hilton. He'll go into 11th as Brian Vorse is still looking for a clean one. Those first 2 laps were both removed.
That's not great for Vorse. There you see Chet Miller able to do a little bit better. Sumner able to improve up to 16th with that last lap. Here comes Antonino getting out of the way. That's going to improve his time up to 5th. It's Nick McLaughlin behind him. Nick is still yet to set a lap here.
Yeah, remember, he was our winner last race. He's been bumped down to 21st without that lap time. So he certainly wants to get one in, or else he'll have a lot of cars to try and pass. As Quoc Ninh is back to the timing line once again, and it's a 29.8, much better, but he'll stay in 4th. It's a bit of a gap to the next car up for him, or was a bit of a gap, and now is within at least 1/10 of Eric Luke, who is right here on your screen conveniently.
Indeed, him driving one of those favored BMWs out here today. Looks like that's not going to be a fast lap for Luke. He'll have to ram it up again. Vincent Trepignet setting times consistently in the 129s, but not able to improve on it. There is Deweese. I don't think that lap is going to count for him. Indeed, it doesn't. Neil Alexander looks like a slow one for the Parabola Racing driver, so that's not going to go. Liberante is able to improve and gets it down to a couple of hundreds between him and Trepignet.
Wow. Yeah, 0.011 between P1 and P2 right now. So this is going to be a fun race if that's the sort of closeness that we'll see in their 2 paces. Brian Vorse still trying to get himself on the board. A lot of drivers having trouble keeping it within the track boundaries. McLaughlin finally puts one down, and he goes up to 3rd.
Yeah, he's still almost a half second off, though. Looks like he's 0.374 off of our leader, so he's got some catching up to do. But yeah, to that track points conversation there, Joe, as Demers looks like he's able to go faster there, bump him his way up to 5th. It's very, very easy to run wide. This is a modern Formula One circuit with lots of paved runoff, and it is very easy to pick up those off tracks around these quick corners.
And then still in 6th, not able to go quicker that time by. So Chet Miller next to Cross went past the track boundaries. He has that lap deleted. Eric Luke is next. He's half a second off of our pole position. Is he any quicker? The Apex button box BMW does not go faster, unfortunately.
Trepignet looks like that's a deleted lap for Vincent, so he'll be able to hold on to pole now for a little bit. Deweese crosses the line on a 31.7, finally gets him on the board. That'll get him into 20th. Neil Alexander able to go a little bit faster, but that's not going to improve his time. Espina finally putting in a good time there. That'll get him P4.
Yeah, starting to see those quick drivers get closer and closer up at the top. Todd Lewis to 15th as Morales still is down in 19th, I think it said there for a second, as Jordan Walker crosses in 20th. He bumps himself up to 15th with that 31 flat. I think our drivers that have not set times are mainly not on the track right now. Boschel, Accord, Hotham, Muirhead, and Larson are out of time to set a quick one. And Brian Vorse is in pit lane, and he's also out of time. He is unfortunately going to have to start from the back of the pack.
Yeah, I think really the last guy to get out on track and be able to get another good lap in is going to be current third place driver Nick McLaughlin. Just timed it absolutely perfect. Here comes Chet Miller to the line. That's going to be a slow one for him and his Mercedes. He'll have enough time to get one more. Here's your provisional pole sitter, Trepanier. Let's see if he's got anything else in the tank.
Trepanier with a 29.2, stays at 29.2. He'll get one last flyer in. With the clock still rolling, Neil Alexander is next in a Porsche that is hard to miss. And the 76, trying to improve on a 31.3, is going to do it. A 30.8, he'll get up to 14th.
Liberante there on an outlap, so that's not going to count for him. Here comes Eric Luke on an outlap as well. Very importantly in this train, now that is Morales, Luke, and McLaughlin all pulling each other along, so maybe a little benefit from the draft there. As we watch Barry Cochran, the Parabola Racing Azure, coming to the line. He's currently 22nd. Not sure if he's going to get to the line in time. I think he is to have one more flyer, Joe.
Yeah, just in time, about 5 seconds left. A 31.4 as well, so he'll go to 19th place. And he's not going to set another one. He's happy with what he had there. Jordan Walker gets the checkered flag, but doesn't set a time that time. Demers, second in the championship, only starting 7th today. Poor qualifying for Alexis, as Antonino also unable to improve. Nin abandons his final lap. What about Marc-Andre in the 206? He's only set one time so far, and that is in 12th. No, not another one able to be put down by him.
No, there comes Chet Miller into pit lane. I believe our pole sitter Trepanier coming in as well. McLaughlin is the next car on track. He's going to be watching his lap times. He got a little bit held up coming through Remus. Oh, and a big off there. That's going to end it for McLaughlin.
Well then, did we see Jordan Walker cross in time? So looks like he might be our last driver. Yes, he's going to be our last one to try and take a lap as he comes down through the infield portion. He's into 16th with a 31.099, and he pulls it over. So he is done. That is it for our qualifying here for round 7 of the Precision Racing League's GT3 AM series. We're getting deep into the season now. 10 races that these drivers run each and every season. And Race Liberante currently holds the advantage on those points, but he's not going to be starting from the pole. Trepanier is going to take his second pole so far this season, but has yet to take a victory. He's had 2 top 5s at least, and he sits 5th in the points, some margin back from our leaders. This could be his chance to get back in the game, though it's somewhat late going for the Canadian. Just waiting for the clock to tick down here on this sunny day in the middle of Austria before we get going for this event. And we had an idea of how things will play out thanks to the GT3 Pros, which raced last night here at this same track in the same cars. But that one had quite a bit of action and some tense moments as well, some impressive passes from a few of our competitors. As the session switches over, it is Trepanier who starts on the pole today. Race Liberante will be in P2. Nick McLaughlin starts from 3rd, as Espina will be 4th. Eric Luke is 5th, followed by Almanar in the 6th position. Alexis Demers starts P7 with Kwoknin 8th, Antonino 9th, and Morales rounding out your top 10.
It's going to be Baron Glover starting off in the 11th place position, followed by Marc-Andre Desjardins, with Matt Hilton and Neil Alexander lining up behind them. Spencer Semkowicz is going to be the inside of row 8, followed by Jordan Walker to his outside, with Chet Miller and Todd Lewis behind them. Then in 19th, it's Barry Cochran with Mark Kalin rounding out your top 20.
Charles Sumner starts 21st, and Deweese will be to his outside. Lawson Christie, the last one to set a time, and 23rd out of 27 starters. This is unusual here for our road series in the PRL. Vorse, Hotham, Accord, Muirhead, Larson, and Boschel will start at the back of this 27-car field here today. I say that, though I see Larson and Muirhead not in the session right now. We also have some onboard cameras, which include Brian Vorse, who's going to have to climb up from the rear. As you can see, he's just getting going now. And of course, Nick McLaughlin starting from third in the championship. So he should give us some interesting views. He won last round. And there is Kwok Nin, who once again joins us, as well as Paul Espina, who is going to be starting from fourth. So our second row represented by both drivers on our onboard cams. The pace car is already in, and they accelerate away with Trepanier taking the green flag and going early. He's going to get them single file pretty quickly at the front of the field. First side-by-side action is between Demers and Nin back there. Up into Lauda. Ooh, an attempt from Eric Luke, but that doesn't quite pan out. Behind them, looks like it's going to be clean through that first turn.
Yeah, everybody able to keep it through there nice and easy, but that side-by-side between Demers and Nin not going away. McLaughlin looking like he's got to try to push up there a little bit. He and Eric Luke are the meat in a BMW sandwich up front. Oh my goodness, Joe, Nin and Demers still side-by-side, now with John Antonino trying to take a little bit of a piece.
Almost looked like they nearly touched each other as Demers lost control for a brief moment, but I think they stayed apart. That is Alexis to the inside in the blue and white, and Kwok Nin on the outside in his Porsche as he fights like hell around Rauk. He's going to hold on just by a fingernail, and he'll have a chance into the next left-hander. Can he get the job done? Not quite yet. This is carrying on for some time.
It really, really is. I can't imagine that they're going to be able to keep this up through the infield section. Nin is going to have the preferred line, but there it finally goes away with Demers taking some momentum. Antonino maybe taking a little look as they head now down into Rinse. Maybe thinking about an aggressive move. No, and that was Glover behind also taking a look as well. We ride on board with John Antonino. Driver off very far in the back there.
Well, the damage is done from that side-by-side battle. Demers is a whole 2 seconds behind Almanar. But up at the front, a poor exit out of Lauda for Trepanier allows Liberante a chance to attack here on lap 2. He's going to have to go the long way around as Trepanier tries to defend. Can he use that banking around the outside potentially? He breaks deep, but he's not fully passed. He could get squeezed off here. He's given just enough space by the Canadian, and it has to fall back in line, but he'll get the slipstream.
He will indeed. You can see now he's trying to poke his nose to what will be the outside of that next corner. Very good defense, though, coming through Remus for Vincent Trepanier. Very, very heads up. And the best news for anybody out of all of this is going to be for Nick McLaughlin. These two keep fighting. It's going to allow him to stay right in touch with them. They've got a pretty good gap back to Paul Espina to the tune of over a second at this point.
Watching from Nick McLaughlin's on board as they come through Vert now. He has definitely got a shot at this if those two keep fighting that way. A little bit of a look once again by Liberante coming up to Rent. I think we had a problem with Spencer Simkovic. We'll check on that a little bit later, but he's fallen down to last on the field. Out of A1 into the first corner was where Trepanier had his problem last time. Can Liberante elicit that mistake out of him once again?
Well, let's see here, Joe. There you see McLaughlin poking his nose to the inside, maybe just trying to get into the head of Race Liberante. Looks like everybody's able to get out of that corner pretty well as Kwok Nin sets the fastest lap of the race right now, moving his way on up past John Antonino.
Once again, Nick McLaughlin trying to get his nose involved in this, but comes back to the racing line by the time they break down for Remus. Side-by-side action between Kwok Nin and John Antonino. This is for 7th place, and Antonino has got the inside. They're going to blast along the Schoenberg Straight and head down into Rauk with Antonino taking advantage of that track position.
He is indeed hard onto the brakes for both of them. Nin maybe looking for a little bit of a crossover, maybe looking for a little bit of momentum move, but Antonino has that covered off. So that is John Antonino up 2 positions from his starting position of 9th as of now.
And ahead of them, Eric Luke managed to overtake Almanar down into Rauch as well. So our front runners trying to make use of these fresh tires while they still have them. It looked a little tough to pass, especially late in the race last time.
Yeah, Joe, remember, these guys are not going to take tires during the pit stops. The GT tire changes take a long time, so they're going to want to stay on it and try to take advantage. Oh my goodness, that's Luke! That is Luke around!
Oh no, the 709 facing the wrong way here on pit entry, and he's going to be joined by another one. That was, I'm not sure who
that's Alexander. That's Neil Alexander, Joe.
Oh no. And it was almost a carbon copy. They have to wait for literally everybody to go by. Let's see what happened to Luke, see if we can figure out what caused this.
Well, we were watching him there, Joe. I think he may have just taken a little bit too much speed there through Rint. It's a very fast, sweeping corner, and it's easy to catch you out if you're not careful. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That car was already starting to spin by the time he was at the apex. Just a little bit too much speed carried through the corner. Alexander looks like the same thing. Just too much speed through the penultimate corner, and that rear end just not gripping at all.
It's a good thing that Luke moved the car a little bit, because he actually would have run into the exact same spot. We had a spin for Todd Lewis in the 919. Don't need to go to him, but he gets the car turned around. The McLaren continues on once again. And interestingly enough, that's Eric Luke, our other recent spinner, just going by him now. So Luke gets 1 spot out of that. It is now Trepanier leading Liberante, leading McLaughlin, as it was at the start of this race. And they haven't separated much since then either. Coming down the pit straight one more time, BMW versus Ferrari.
Yeah, and it looks like Liberante is able to draw in a little bit there as he sets the fastest lap of the race. Little more trepidatious there on the brakes, it has to be said, as he dives down into turn 1, but that benefits him, able to carry a lot of speed out of the corner. Looking at the speed comparisons, they're all about in line for each other. Only about here do Liberante and McLaughlin start to pick up on that draft. Everybody's staying in line. Oh, that's a little bit of a mistake from Trepanier. That almost gave Liberante an opening.
And Liberante's been aggressive so far, wanted to try and get this lead away as they approach Rauch into the downhill braking. He's too far back for anything here. So what briefly looked like maybe we could get a change for position just kind of petered out as quick as it formed up. Oh, 3 wide behind them, my goodness. Almanar, Antonino, Kwok Nin, and one crazy battle back here.
Antonino being the latest of the late breakers down into the right-handed hairpin at the end of the straightaway. Absolutely aggressive and amazing move from the driver of the 193, able to get himself by Jonathan Almanar. Kwok Nin now trying to do the same.
We're watching the leaders, but actually Kwok Nin's going to have a good chance on Almanar. There you see him poking out to the inside. Or no, excuse me, it was Kwok Nin going around the outside as Almanar tried to defend. He had a bad run out of vert, and so Kwok will now get himself up into the 6th spot.
And that really goes to show you, Joe, you get out of rhythm on this track. There are so few corners that can really throw you off. That is Almanar losing 2 spaces in the course of about 5 corners.
So we now see them head through Lauda once again. That group of cars is starting to get bigger and bigger, it seems. Nin and Almanar also have Morales and Alexis Demers in there. Now, Demers has dropped positions. Remember, he started in 7th. He's down to 9th, and last round was the very first one all season that he finished outside of the top 5. So as we ride on board with him, what has happened in these past couple of rounds that seems to have hurt his pace?
I'm not entirely sure, Joe. It may just be a little bit of a mental game here for Alexis. You know, you get out of sync with your sim, you get out of sync with your driving, and it can just kind of throw you off and throw you off your game. The one thing that I can think of is he may be trying to do a little bit of fuel conservation at this point, maybe trying to go a little bit longer.
Leaders have closed in once again, 0.2 of a second between Trepanier and Liberante. Small correction out of Rent, trying to tuck up close behind onto the front stretch, and it's a pretty decent exit there. Behind them, Nick McLaughlin has been hovering at about half a second back. You can see him in that rear view camera on board with the BMW. And oh, here we go. Liberante is as close as he's been in a minute on the run up to Remus. He should have the slipstream. Does he attack once again?
Let's see, he's certainly thinking about it, looking out the back of our leader's machine. There goes Race to the outside. He's going to try to force his way around the long way.
Oh.
Carry that momentum, contact between the two. McLaughlin says thank you very much and moves up into second.
No, McLaughlin's slow. Why is McLaughlin so slow? Something must be wrong because he's creeping along here. His pit limiter is stuck on.
Looks like he's finally able to get it off at the end of the straightaway, but that's already cost him a whopping 7 seconds up to the leaders, and now he finds himself in a bit of a battle here, trying to come back with Paul Espina.
I'm not sure if he accidentally hit it in the chaos that was happening in front of him, because he never really picked up speed off that corner. So he must have accidentally flicked it on. So Espina now up into third, but the gap to the leaders is a whole 8 seconds. Nick McLaughlin, who potentially could have been fighting for the victory, may have taken himself out of it.
That is a real hardware heartbreak for Nick McLaughlin. He is now just going to have to put his head down and try to get that out of his head, get a move on Paul Espina in front of him, and hopefully try to salvage a podium out of this race.
Let's go to 8th position, where Almanar and Demmer are going to swap positions. Alexis didn't like us talking about him losing pace. He's already trying to go on the attack, but the job's not done. It is a drag race up the hill.
Yeah, and he's a little bit compromised there. He clipped that inside curve. That upset the weight of the car ever so slightly coming through Niki Lauda curve. Now hard on to the brakes. Can he hold it through here? We've talked about that banking around the outside of the corner, not doing any favors to Alexis Demers. That's going to allow Almanar to hold that position. Demers trying to fight back.
Behind them, that is Desjardins and Baron Glover with their own fight. So 4 cars tussling here, along with Matt Hilton watching. And down into Rauch, a little wide for both Demers and Almanar, but nobody changes places.
Desjardins looking very, very strong on the brakes there into Schlossgold. Very, very strong in that BMW. Now these guys are all pretty much equidistant from each other. Looks like Desjardins maybe trying to close in a little bit through Rauch. They go through Wirth, though. Advantage may switch back to Demers.
Almanar just holding at the front of this train in 8th position. And did Almanar just say he's pitting in over the radio?
I believe he did, Joe. I believe he did indeed. Yep, there he goes on in. That slowed down Demers a little bit, but Desjardins right behind him. Those two are teammates, so there may be a little communication between the two.
Almanar giving up valuable track position. As behind them, that is a look from Hilton, then rethinks it as Matt pulls in behind Baron Glover. Up and over the crest of Lauda. It was a decent exit from Demers. Desjardins going to be able to at least keep him honest, but I don't think attack into Remus, and no, he's not even poking his nose out.
No, he is not. Just keeping it nice and calm through there. Good exit, though, for Desjardins. Maybe he's going to get a little bit more speed here. That gap coming down ever so slightly now, under 0.3 of a second as they work their way towards Schlossgold.
This is the last thing that Demers wants right now, because Almanar's now freed him up. Oh, goes a little deep down into Rauch. Able to keep it out of the gravel. But the 2.56 can now run to his pace instead of being stuck behind the likes of Almanar, who had a regular stop. He came back out in 23rd, actually in quite a bit of traffic, so I don't think this is working out well for the O2.
Yeah, that's the problem. But ooh, big wiggle there for Desjardins, and he loses it. He is completely sideways, tries to catch the car the best he can, and is able to keep it pointed relatively the right way. Good car control there for Marc-Andre Desjardins.
He was lucky more cars weren't coming behind him. Let's watch from on board the NTR Motorsports driver. Yeah, I think he just went a little wide, took those curbs wrong, watched everybody fly past his windscreen as he locked him up, and then eventually got it turned around and rolling.
And Mark Kalin taking advantage of that, and now it's Barry Cochran looking to do the same thing to dive down the inside of Nicky Lauda here. Ooh, he's gonna have to be late on the brakes to try to get past Marc-Andre. Marc-Andre covers that off beautifully, and now here comes Chet Miller in that Mercedes, putting a challenge to Cochran.
Bad day is just getting worse, unfortunately, for this guy as they come down towards the corner, and Cochran is gonna get by Chet Miller and take that 14th position. As that was happening, Antonino, whoa, McLaughlin with another problem. Something is wrong with that car.
It almost looked like he was on the limiter again, Joe, just dropping position, something not right. I've got to think he's got a problem, a hardware problem at home.
Maybe that button is sticking. I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, McLaughlin now down to 6th when he was running 3rd earlier in this race. He's almost one I think maybe should try and pit. Just get that out of the way, see if he can figure out, bang away at that steering wheel and try and assess what's going on, what's causing it. In the meantime, he's about half a second back from Kwoknin that you see in front. This will be good for Alexis Demers. If,
was that McLaughlin? That's McLaughlin around and into the wall, Joe.
This was in Lauda, and this wasn't, I'm pretty certain, wasn't involving the same issues that he had before. I think he just gets the curb. Let's see.
Yeah, well, I think he caught a little bit of that inside curb. He was very, very wide on corner entry coming in, and I think that may have just upset the car. And Joe, I can now report he has parked it. He is towing in. That is day over for the 62.
He's had an inconsistent season, so despite having more wins than Liberante, he's just not been able to get those good finishes week in and week out. Race definitely has, and he's looking to tie up that win tally as long as he can hold back Trepanier.
I will say Trepanier has been closing a little bit over the course of this lap. We've seen the gap come down from about 1.2 seconds all the way down to about 9/10 as they exit there and cross the timing and scoring line. Looks like it's back up to 1 whole second. So Vincent not letting Liberante out of his sights completely here.
We're hearing information as we got a battle here between Kalin and Desjardins for 11th. We're hearing that maybe the wheel was disconnecting for Nick McLaughlin. So we'll try and get some confirmation of whether or not that was the actual issue. Good exit from the yellow number 5. Kalin hounding down that 206, showing his nose into the first corner and then deciding against it.
And this is a little bit of a defense. Ooh, somebody off big time in the background. That's Barry Cochran making a very similar mistake to what we saw McLaughlin make. But as I said, Joe, Kalin lost this position on the last lap to Marc-Andre, trying to fight back on it. This, remember, is from that slide and catch that Desjardins suffered earlier in the race.
Down the hill once again, looking towards Rauch, and it appears that Desjardins has this one wrapped up into that corner. I think we had another driver pitting. Looks like one of our drivers from farther down the order, Brian Hotham. So Almanar still is our highest pitter currently in that 02 machine. Oh, and another one came in. Drew DeWeese, it seems, the next one trying to pit. We are at just about halfway. This race has absolutely flown by.
Yeah, it really has, Joe, when you've got all of this good action going on. I'm going to jump back here, though. This is Eric Luke hounding the back of Chet Miller's Mercedes.
As Chet Miller doesn't go defensive, he doesn't feel confident that Luke was willing to risk it into Rent at this stage of the event. Oh, but he was slow down through A1, and here comes Eric Luke, but he may have found his momentum compromised there. Now he's starting to get a little bit more speed over the Mercedes. braking deep into the first corner, side by side through there, just doesn't hold, and Chet Miller has to give up the ghost.
Yes, he does, and that's going to compromise him a little bit on speed down this long straightaway. So that position is going to be Eric Lukes. I anticipate him starting to pull away a little bit here.
Things have certainly gotten jumbled up throughout our fields, comers and goers, as they say. And the 33 of Brian Vorse is one of those that's making good on a lack of qualifying. He is currently in 10th after starting from 24th. A few of the drivers have pitted, a few have wrecked out in front of him. But we watch the onboard cameras looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, you can see that triple screen setup that he has going. Very calm and conservative drive here at the Red Bull Ring. We talked about it earlier, about just some of the chaos that we saw yesterday in the Pro Series out here. Vorse taking advantage of a lot of that in front of him to move his way up. This is a very good drive for the driver of 33.
So not much to go to get the next one up for him. Our battles have sadly spread apart up at the lead. As you see, Race Liberante leading Trepanier by 1.7 seconds. And then you probably are not going to see Espina behind them just because of all the crests in this track. He's 9 seconds behind back there in third.
Yeah, big gap between Liberante and Trepanier there, back to Espina. But I think Race may have been listening to our broadcast and is trying to show me a little something, as I was commending Trepanier earlier for catching on in, and Liberante here just absolutely pulling away. He's been setting a lot of fastest laps and has been within 1/10 of a second of those fastest laps as he does them. So very fast, very consistent here for Race Liberante.
Yeah, in fact, he was 0.2 of a second faster on both of those previous laps. Let's see if this one follows the same pattern. Liberante coming up to the finish line, and his quickest lap of the race at 29.645. Trepanier 30.0 is 0.3 difference that time by. Trepanier may have lost the slipstream of that car ahead. In fact, Liberante is going to pull a little off of Bochel, who just finished his pit stop and now goes a lap down. Yes, as he pulls off to the side.
Yeah, it's a smart move there from Liberante. Just take a little advantage of the draft. Recognize that you're not really going to get hurt doing that and going forward, so that'll continue to increase his advantage. Gap up now to about 2 seconds between our leader and second place.
Still waiting for the majority of our field to pit. And they got maybe about 4 or 5 more laps before we expect many of them to come in. Brett Accord has pitted in the 151 machine. That Porsche looking for his pit stall. Let's head over to Eric Luke in the 709. Remember, he's got a recovery drive to make. Well, next on his list is Mark Kalin, and that list is going to have one more checked off. Maybe? No. Wheel spin coming out of Remus. So he's got to try and do it in the next corner.
Remember, these two were duking it out a little bit earlier. I'm not sure what happened to put Luke behind Kalin, but he definitely is, as of right now. Heavy braking down into Schlossgold. Little bit of an elbows out there move from Eric Luke, trying to force Kalin off the line.
Slight touch coming off the corner, but no harm, no foul between those two. Sticking his nose back in. Mark Kalin gonna give it one last go, and this time he makes contact and turns him around. He's gonna slow up and let him be able to pull ahead, but they both lost out to Chet Miller, who accelerated by, and Simkovic. That was 2 positions that each of them gave up with that error.
Yeah, very costly there for both of them. Great sportsmanship from Mark Kalin, although now it looks like Lawson Christie's going to be hot up behind his tailpipe. I looked, unfortunately, like a little bit of ghost contact there in between the two, so no real fault there for either driver.
I can also say that Brian Forrest just got Glover, so another one down for the 33. Last we looked at him just maybe 2 or 3 laps ago, he was a full second behind. Clearly, Forrest is a fast one today.
Yeah, very quick. That's up 15 positions for Vorse here. The next in his sights, though, is going to be Matt Hilton. And that gap is about 3.4 seconds right now, so he's still got some work to do.
Ooh, Espina sees Antonino getting ever closer. Started from 9th position, and maybe he had more in it in qualifying that he wasn't able to put down, because suddenly he's looking at a 3rd place, the 20 car, trying to stay calm. We watch from Espina's on board, looking back on the big camera, and then down below, pedal cam, wheel cam, face cam, and his perspective.
And you can see just how much he has that car working for him. Really a lot of steering lock having to be put in around these tricky corners. Antonino behind him, giving good chase there, not getting drawn off of the line. Gap holding at about 0.3 of a second. Antonino poking his nose a little bit offline, breaking the draft maybe. I think he may be trying to get a good run here through Remus. Indeed, there he goes. Tighter line for Antonino. That's going to gain him a 10th or 2.
Don't need to go to it, but Simkovic is our latest to pit now. So he will hand off his positions down into Rauk and Espina. Whoa, deep on the brakes. Well, now we know where Antonino's getting his time on Paul.
Yeah, indeed. That was the latest of the latest of the late breakers there for John Antonino. Obviously lost some time on that move, but he has a lot of faith in that Porsche's brakes as he chases down Espina's Ferrari.
You know, I was wondering about that move for Jonathan Almanar with his very early pit stop. The O2 has had some clear track for a while now and has put some decent laps down, so he could yet make up a position or two depending on what's going on with those he was racing with before. Onto the front stretch, we watch from the roof cam of Antonino.
See that dust kick up on exit. That is normal. He's been able to gain back the 0.2 that he lost breaking into Schlossgold. Let's see how he's able to handle this first corner of Niki Lauda curve. Good amount of entry curbing, perfect amount of exit curbing there for Antonino, continuing to bring that gap down a little bit. Remember, that Ferrari a little bit easier to drive, a better all-arounder. That Porsche being rear engine, very, very twitchy. You've got to watch the rear end, but it does have a little bit more power in it. Offline there for Antonino. Don't know if he's going to be close enough to close this in, but he is certainly giving the perfect amount of pressure.
You know, it seems like we saw a bit of this not only last night, but on Sunday evening with the majors when the GT3 cars went to Spa. It seems like lately getting up to a car is easy, but then passing them is proven quite difficult lately.
You're right, Joe, and remember, they did implement a new balanced performance in these cars for the Spa 24 hours on iRacing, so that factoring into it a little bit here, but it does look like Antonino is very close coming through that infield section. I'm a little bit surprised how close he is able to travel behind that Ferrari. I would expect the aero wash to be a lot worse.
Well, in these corners, it certainly is going to be diabolical, especially Rent. It is fast. He does fall back slightly. Can he withstand it? Coming through A1 just a little bit. He's back by about 2 car lengths.
Well, and they're going to have some good news, or at least good news for Espina. That is Charles Bichel right in front of them in the Audi, so he'll be able to pick up a little bit of the draft here as they go down. There you see Espina flashing his lights, letting him know in that Audi that he is coming on through.
Bichel's aware. He's just going to pull off to the side, and both of them are easily passed. Down to 12 minutes left to go. This is where we are likely to see a flood of cars coming down into the pit lane. Keep an eye on Liberante, our leader, to see if he steps in. By the way, his gap now up to 4.3 seconds and continuing to grow.
Yeah, I put in the fastest lap of the race last time. There you see Antonino again, very late onto the brakes into Schlossgold. Little bit of a counter line going through that bendy section of the track. Again, just trying to put some pressure here to Espina to see if he can force a mistake out of the 20.
Down into Vert, and Liberante's pitting. So Liberante is in. Trepanier is going to follow him. And then up next, it's Espina and Antonino, and showing his intentions. Espina, though, is slowing up on the way in. I wonder if he was watching F1 and thought he had to hold the inside coming into that corner, and Antonino easily goes into third with that.
Nin looks like he is going to stay out, as is Rodrigo Morales, I believe. So those are two drivers that were able to be a little bit lighter on the right foot. We'll have to see if it pays them dividends. The rest of your leaders are pitting now. Liberante already out and on his way.
Who was that? That was Jordan Walker, spun at the exit of the pit lane. And yeah, it was him exiting the pits. Trying to figure out how that managed to happen. The 22 almost looks like he just touched the grass and half spun. Here it is, right here.
I think what happened there, Joe, is he goosed it a little bit coming out of pit lane in that right-hander and got a little bit of wheel spin, tried to catch it, and then went onto the grass over to the right. Watch it right here. The rear end is going to step out. Yeah, there you can see it has to catch it and come back, and that gets it onto the grass.
That's one of the more bizarre incidents I've seen out of a pit exit. So we're still waiting on Nin, Morales, Vorse, Glover, and Chet Miller, who need to take their pit stops. Likely this will be the last lap for each of them before they come and take fuel.
Yeah, indeed. We just heard over the radio that Kwok Min will be coming into the pits. I cannot imagine Morales, Vorse, Glover, or Miller will be able to stretch this another lap, Joe.
It looks like Morales is in. Vorse is as well. And Glover does likewise. This means that Liberante will retake the lead easily. Remember, it's Trepanier that he is racing and the one he needs to worry about. And then just finding his stall as Liberante screams by.
Yeah, so that is going to be Liberante and Trepanier on by. Waiting here for Kwok Nin to see where he comes out, already on his way. Is that a battle for? No, that is not a battle on track. So checking here as everybody starts to cycle their way back out.
And I'm trying to keep an eye out for Demers, second place in the championship. And he is going to cycle into seventh. Still an incredibly disappointing result if he finishes here. That's exactly where he started this race, in the second race in a row that he will finish outside of the top five. This is looking really good for Race Liberante as this battle goes three wide briefly. Almanar, Vorse, and Alexander. Alexander, though, is a lap down from them, so he's not involved.
Remember, Vorse is one of the ones that we've been following as the hard charger of the brace, in ninth right now, chasing down Almanar. This was the battle that we were keeping an eye on before Almanar came into the pits a lap earlier than Brian Vorse. So certainly working on it here. Let's see if he is able to do anything.
Watching on board with Vorse here. Still in that 33. Almanar just ahead of him. If Vorse gets by Jonathan too, next up the road is Demers. And based on the pace that we've been seeing from Brian, not sure if Alexis will be able to hold him back. His best hope is that Almanar will make it very tough to pass and can't get close to him in time to try and threaten that seventh spot.
Yeah, indeed, and excuse me on my mistake, Almanar, remember, was the early stopper out of all of this. He came in very, very early, did Jonathan Almanar, all the way back 13 laps ago. So Almanar doing a good job to get that undercut working well and placing him well up the order.
Yeah, he was fighting around seventh and eighth spot, so he didn't really gain or lose a whole lot in this, but it was worth the shot at least. Looks like Spencer Simkovich for the second time spun. Oh, and he's coming back on track. Is that Liberante? Yes, that was Race Liberante that came upon him, nearly hitting him. Let's watch from the perspective of the 34.
This is on board with Race Liberante. There you can see Simkovich coming in. Woo-hoo! Great reactions from Race Liberante to keep that from being a race-ending accident.
Now, while it didn't end Race's race, I kind of wonder if the stewards are going to look ill upon that. They have talked to the drivers prior in this season about safe rejoins on the track, and they do not look kindly on drivers who don't watch out for their F3 box. I'm curious, I'll be very curious to watch and see what they have to say about that incident. In the meantime, Demers ahead of Almanar, ahead of Vorse.
Yeah, indeed, this battle just continuing on here. Almanar looking like he's starting to pull in Demers a little bit more. But as we tick down under 6 minutes to go here at the Red Bull Ring, he has got to get a move on if he wants to get this position done.
It's been a climb of, let's see, 15 places for Brian Vorse. Granted, we have to remind our audience, if you're just joining us, he did not put a qualifying time in, so he started from the back of the field. Not sure if that was intentional, but certainly put him behind the 8 ball. As we accelerate off of Remus, that is a lapped car. Jordan Walker just trying to stay out of their way, and Alexis Demers not going to be under threat from Almanar. A poor exit off that corner for Brian Vorse. He falls back a full second from that pair, who are now getting very tight nose to tail.
Yeah, they really are starting to get a little bit spicy here up front. I thought for sure that Almanar was going to be in trouble from Vorse, but it's the other way around. Demers being in trouble here from Almanar. Losing a little bit of ground through the infield section, but it looked like, much like we were watching from Antonino earlier, that Almanar just very good onto the brakes going down into Schlossgold, and that really allowed him to gain some time.
Seems to be where he is strongest, no doubt. Race Liberante is continuing to lead this event. As he crossed the line last time, it's a little under 5 minutes left to go. Now, I've been seeing this battle a bit here. Charles Sumner and Brett Accord are going side by side once again. We haven't been able to cover it yet, but as they fight for 16th position, great defense from the long way around by the Porsche. The 98 not allowing him to get through, but coming back at him. Brett Accord now finds himself on the outside. Doesn't get it done. Heading down into Vert, sends it in deep. The yellow and blue machine is very on point today, and I think he's got it now.
He does indeed, and Joe, that was really all precipitated by a very heads-up maneuver by Accord to be able to run a little bit wide into Roush. But we've got another battle. This is Demers and Almanar. Almanar able to get by using that late on the brakes that I talked about.
Wow. And now Vorse is going to try and take advantage of it on top of things as he gets his nose to the inside of that quarter panel, but can't keep the overlap, shutting the door. Demers says, I'm only losing one here. I'm not losing both of these. But just a disastrous day for this 256, who is going to see the championship start to slip through his fingers. Liberante is going to have a much bigger gap come next round at Long Beach.
Yeah, he certainly is. This race couldn't have gone any better for Race Liberante in terms of the overall championship. Ticking down under 3 minutes to go here. Watching Vorse, he could have a run here if he watches it. I guarantee you he was watching Almanar as Almanar was able to get by. Great run through Lauda for Vorse.
He's very close, but it looks like it was a slightly better exit for the 256. Kind of covering him off. Nope, now he's going to the racing line, braking uphill into Remus. Who's got the better exit? Both of them trying to get the power down, and Brian Vorse is tucked underneath that rear wing.
Yes, he certainly is. Alexis getting a little bit defensive, a little bit of weaving back and forth from Vorse. I think he's going to try to send it on the inside. No, he's going to keep it nice and in line here. Oh, look how close he's getting behind. Very, very close to Demers. He is not letting up on this attack at all.
Got to be careful about how tight he's riding that rear bumper. One false move, he can suddenly get into him and turn him around. Demers trying to play defense, trying to cling to whatever he can, goes slightly a bit wide into the gravel, just touching the wheels on there, slowing him on the exit of Vert. Vorse shows his nose in the mirrors and then comes back to the racing line.
And forced Demers, though, to get a little bit squirrely coming through Rint. And this is going to be 2 to go at the line, Joe. So Force has really got to get a move on here if he wants to move up into that 7th place position.
Regardless, this has been fantastic to watch and see him just pick everybody off one by one. Lapped car down low, Hotham trying to stay out of the way of all 3 of them. Almanar taking advantage of Demers and Force fighting as much as they are, as he's pulled away to the tune of 1 second.
Yeah, he's going to be pretty happy about that little fight behind him. Again, not the best run there coming through Remus for Brian Vorse. May have cost him a little bit of time, and that time is valuable.
It really is, and as we come down to the last laps, 30 seconds left on the clock, and Liberante just coming to the white flag now, lapping some more traffic. As we watch this fight farther down, trying to settle out 7th, 8th, and 9th. Looks like Demers is able to stretch away from Vorse by half a second, giving him some breathing room. 3rd place, we haven't checked in on this in a while. Spina, Antonino, and just those 2, it appears. I thought they had a 3rd, but Kwok Nin is 4 seconds behind.
Yeah, that Ferrari in the rear view of John Antonino is actually Nick McLaughlin. Nick able to get his hardware sorted, it would appear, and get back on track, just trying to finish the race here to get those completion points for himself. Antonino's been trying to close in on Espina. The gap's been coming down, but this is the white flag lap, and unless there's a mistake here from Espina, I think Antonino's a little too late.
I think you might be right on this one. Vorse, though, might have something on Demers. He is tucked up behind him and actually having a go at things. Oh, with some slight contact to Demers.
Oh, and that's going to really put a wrench into the works here for Brian Vorse. You see how big that gap is. Just tried to outbrake him a little bit going down into Remus.
Let's head over to Race Liberante. With an 8-second lead, this one has not looked in doubt for some time. And the 34 car is going to match Nick McLaughlin on wins, taking victory number 3 here at Austria for the Precision Racing League GT3 AM Series. Trepanier follows him home with another 2nd place, still seeking that elusive victory, but gets a podium as Espina is clinging to 3rd place. Antonino right behind him. He's not close enough, though. Paul going from 4th up 1 to be able to spray the champagne today.
And you can see the jubilation there from Espina. Nothing like crossing the line after putting up such a stout defense like that. Riding on board now, you can see Brian Vorse as he makes his way through the final couple of corners. He will cross over the line in 9th, unable to catch Demers. That's Kwok Nin, another one of our onboard drivers, coming home in 5th.
Yeah, Demers just immediately hops out of the car. He doesn't seem terribly happy with how this one went down. But that is going to wrap up our finishers, as only 15 were left on the lead lap. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to the Red Bull Ring. Here in Austria, round 7 of the Precision Racing League GT3 AM Series was won by RaceLab. That is going to extend his championship lead over all of his nearest rivals. Vincent Trepanier finished in second, but he still won't close, unfortunately, even though he was 5th in the points. Paul Espina finished 3rd and looked very happy about that one. Hopefully we get to talk to him a little later, as 4th went to Antonino and Nin rounded out your top 5. Rodrigo Morales, we didn't get to follow him closely, but he gained 4 positions there from 10th to 6th. Great race from him. Almanar finished 7th with Demers unusually slow in the last 2 rounds. He was only 8th. Vorse climbed forward despite missing out on qualifying, went from 24th to 9th, and Glover finished 10th.
In 11th, it was Matt Hilton, followed by Eric Luke, dropping down from an earlier, better qualifying position. Marc-Andre Desjardins was 13th, followed by Mark Canelan and Lawson Christie. Brett Court up 10 positions to finish 16th, followed by Charles Sumner up 4. Chet Miller dropped down 1 position from his starting spot of 17th, finished 18th, followed by Spencer Semkowicz and Jordan Walker in 20th.
And 21st, it was Neil Alexander Boschel, 22nd, followed by Cochran, 23rd. Last driver, 1 lap down. Todd Lewis was P24. Hotham was a DNF today. McLaughlin did get back out there, gained a couple spots in the process, so he wasn't giving up, but it was a 26 in the end. Deweese was the last to take part, as Muirhead and Larson did not start today. As for RaceLab, who, he was our winner, but it looks like we lost him here. I thought we were going to get to talk to him. Looks like Kwok Nin instead is going to be our driver that we'll have a conversation with, getting a 5th place finish. Kwok, you had some great battles going on almost all throughout the race. What's your thoughts on this track now that we've been able to race it here in this series?
It was a fun track to drive. I really enjoyed it. It's probably one of my favorite tracks, with the turns going at high speeds and the carousel. It's just a really fun track to drive. When it's a cool weather, you have so much grip, you can just rip it all over the track.
It certainly looked fun from our perspective. Now, we found it interesting, a lot of the battles going up through Remus. It seems like drivers often have to carry that on, down from that 2nd braking zone into the 3rd braking zone. What do you think is causing those fights to just keep going and going so often?
Well, with those turns, you can either get a good wide turn inside and exit out, and then for the driver that's taking the inside line, you have to reduce your speed so much. But once you exit that apex, you pretty much almost have the same speed of exiting, right? So right there, I felt like it's hard to pass, because you guys are, when you're side by side, you're running at like the same speed.
Interesting stuff. I love watching it create such long running battles. However, you guys are going to have a little bit harder time trying to even get side by side next week. You're going to Long Beach. Are you looking forward to that, or is it making you nervous?
It's the very tight hairpin, that very last turn. I've drove on Long Beach a lot, and I've been able to nail that hairpin perfectly. However, I haven't tried it on the Porsche, so it will make me a little bit nervous practicing on the track, and then once the official race starts, I'll probably be a little bit more nervous.
Well, we'll wish you the best there, and congratulations on a top 5 today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the broadcast.
That's Kwok Nin, who went up 3 positions today, as now we have our winner with us as RaceLab joins DJ in the booth.
Well, Race, you didn't qualify on pole, had to fight past Vincent there to get it, but you extended your championship lead by a lot. This one's got to feel good.
Yeah, definitely, especially after Spa last week. We had really good pace all throughout practice. I had the field covered by about 4/10, and then track changed a little bit for qualifying, and I obviously was, this track's really tricky with the off tracks, so just tried to get on the board this time, unlike last week, and knew in the race I'd have a long run set up, and just was trying to stay patient, finally got my chance. Vince was a little loose on entry and all the high speed stuff, and I was just kind of trying to be patient, save some fuel. This track's hard to save fuel because you're going up a hill every time you're on a straightaway, so it was really difficult. So yeah, unfortunately it was a little rough getting by him, and I don't know what happened to McLaughlin, but yeah, it feels really good to extend the points lead, that's for sure.
Well, I was going to ask you in terms of once you got past Vincent there, you know, were you pushing like mad to try to pull away, or were you just still running the same lines you were the entire time?
Yeah, I started pushing a little bit harder. The car I set up this week for like super long run. All my other stuff previous has been kind of short run. My plan was always to try and maybe get away and see what happens, but this one I set up for the long run pace, and it seemed to work out. So it was just getting faster and faster and faster before we had to pit to take fuel. So I just kept going. I mean, I think I kept getting faster every single lap up until the end there, and then found myself a pretty good gap once we got into lap traffic, and then after the pit stop was able to just kind of cruise and make sure that I didn't have too many off tracks or make too many major mistakes.
Well, as we go forward, you know, obviously you want to get those race wins. You want to do that and be able to spray the champagne on the top of the podium. But are you focusing a little bit more on the championship, or are you focusing on those wins?
You know, I'm going to try and balance between the two. I love winning, right? That's kind of why we all do this. So I'm going to push as hard as I can every week, but try and use my head while making any decisions and try and be patient if the opportunity comes, and I'll take it. If not, and we'll set it for what we got. But I plan on winning every race that I enter, so we'll see.
Well, fantastic, man. Anybody you'd like to thank for this win here tonight?
Absolutely. I'd like to give it a shout out to the whole Delta Sport crew. Good job to the boys last night too. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, Race Factory, Get Stuck, Move Up, Lynchburg, Driven Texas, and Extreme Sim Racing for helping me out with the rig, and all the other guys that help us do what we do, and everybody watching at home, and you guys, as well as PRL and their sponsors for putting this on.
Well, thank you so much, Race. That was your winner here tonight, Race Liberante. And now Joe Peak has caught up with your third place finisher, Paul Espina.
Yeah, Paul, this was an interesting race for you, not least of which because it looked a little lonely at the first half of the race, kind of running on your own. Then suddenly you were caught by John Antonino, and you had a strange moment into pit lane. You slowed up a whole lot coming into that second to last corner. What was the reasoning for that?
Please let Jonathan enter to channel to translate.
Apologies. We've got Jonathan Almanar in here to help us translate.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll reiterate the question. It was a lonely race for Paul for much of it, but for some reason we saw Paul slow down very suddenly as he came into the pit lane for his pit stop. What was the reasoning for that?
Paul, ¿por qué bajaste la velocidad antes de entrar a pits?
Para no entrar pasado, pensé que el John Antonio que venía atrás iba a seguir en carrera a otra vuelta más y no quería frenarle de repente y que me fuese a golpear.
So I tried to slow down because first the speed limit caught me by surprise. I didn't know if I was gonna go straight over the limit, but also the guy behind me, I didn't want to block him, so it was kind of a difficult situation.
We saw you celebrating when you crossed the line and took this third place. Does this one mean a lot to you?
Vimos que celebraste bastante cuando llegaste tercero. ¿Esto significa mucho para ti?
Sí, es el primer podio en PRL para mí y para el equipo SDS Racing Team, que hemos estado mejorando poco a poco y el primer podio pues siempre se celebra.
Yeah, of course, it means a lot. It's my first podium on any league overall, and it's an achievement for the entire team. We've been trying to improve from the beginning, and at the beginning we were last, and now we're competing with the top drivers. So very, very meaningful.
I have to say we're impressed with your setup, showing us the pedals and the wheels and everything. What inspired you to try for such an impressive display here?
Estamos impresionados de tu transmisión. Tienes tus pedales, tu televisor, tu cámara en tu cara y el volante. ¿Qué te inspiró a tener ese setup?
Que me gusta transmitir, que me queden las carreras grabadas en video para poderlas. Tengo carreras de hace 10 años atrás guardadas, desde que empecé, y bueno, me gusta guardarlas y que queden bien grabadas.
Claro. So I like to record all my races. I have races recorded from 10 years ago. So it's kind of a hobby. I like to have an archive of my past races.
Oh, that's even cooler. So love getting to see this, and I love hearing that you have that enthusiasm about recording your career. Congratulations. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Felicitaciones, Paul. Es una sorpresa saber que te gusta grabar tanto. ¿A quién le quieres agradecer?
Bueno, no, gracias a ti, a Jonathan y a SDS Racing Team, a mi equipo, por siempre estar ahí apoyándonos. Gracias.
Okay. Thanks you guys for the transmission. It's great to hear you guys transmitting this race. Thank you to the team. Thanks to me, the translator. I was racing too. I was P7. But yeah, thanks to the team for the support. They've been watching all the races as well.
Absolutely. Thank you to both of you for letting us talk here at the end. But I believe that is going to wrap us up. So also, we want to thank our sponsors here for this series, which includes ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. And RaceLab, it helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. As well as ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And SIMMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp. She's got all kinds of awesome work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because the next race is going to be a thriller for sure. Long Beach will take place August 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Up next, the Flying Huskies are going to Sonoma, home circuit for them. That'll be at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.